Right now, as you watch this video, there is a 50% chance that your blood sugar is in a dangerous range, and your last doctor's visit didn't catch it. Half of all Americans over 60 have prediabetes. Half. And the vast majority of them have absolutely no idea, because the symptoms don't look like what you'd expect. No dramatic warning signs, no obvious pain. Just quiet, accumulating damage to your heart, your kidneys, your eyes, and your brain. Happening right now, today. The signs are there. They're just not the ones anyone told you to look for. Here is the number that should change how you think about your health starting today. According to the Centers for Disease Control, more than 96 million American adults have prediabetes. That is 1 in 3 adults. Among Americans over 60, the rate climbs to nearly 1 in 2. And of those millions of people, 80% don't know they have it. Not because it's hard to detect, because it produces symptoms so ordinary, so easy to dismiss, that most seniors chalk them up to just getting older. Fatigue after meals? Aging. Blurry vision in the afternoon? Dry eyes. Waking up to use the bathroom at night? Normal after 60. Tingling in your feet? Probably nothing. But what if none of these are just aging? What if they are your body sending the exact signals it knows how to send, and nobody has taught you how to read them? The cost of missing prediabetes is not small. Left unaddressed, prediabetes progresses to type 2 diabetes in the majority of cases, bringing with it doubled risk of heart attack, tripled risk of kidney failure, and significantly elevated risk of stroke, vision loss, nerve damage, and cognitive decline. And here is what makes this especially urgent for seniors. The window between prediabetes and full diabetes is not permanent. It is closable. Studies show that lifestyle intervention during the prediabetes stage can reduce progression to diabetes by up to 58%. But only if you know you're in that window. Today, you will. Everything we cover today is grounded in research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the American Diabetes Association, Harvard Medical School, the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, and the Mayo Clinic. A landmark study published in Diabetes Care, the leading peer-reviewed journal of the American Diabetes Association, found that adults over 60 with undiagnosed prediabetes had measurably accelerated damage to blood vessels, nerves, and kidney filtration capacity compared to age-matched peers with normal glucose levels. The damage was occurring silently, years before a formal diabetes diagnosis. Dr. William Cefalu, former Chief Scientific and Medical Officer of the American Diabetes Association, has publicly stated that the most dangerous phase of blood sugar disease is the pre-diabetes stage, precisely because patients feel well enough to ignore it, and doctors don't always flag it clearly. What makes today's information different from what you may have heard before is this. We are not talking about textbook diabetes symptoms. We are talking about the specific, subtle, easy-to-miss signs that appear in adults over 60. Signs that are often dismissed by both patients and their general practitioners. We've reviewed hundreds of case studies and clinical guidelines so you don't have to. Let's go through them one by one. Feeling tired after every meal is not normal aging. It's a warning signal. Most seniors over 60 accept post-meal fatigue as an inevitable part of getting older. They eat lunch, they feel heavy and tired, they take a nap, and they assume this is simply what aging feels like. It is one of the most widely accepted and most misunderstood symptoms of early blood sugar dysfunction. Here's what is actually happening. When you eat a meal, particularly one containing refined carbohydrates or added sugars, your blood glucose rises. Your pancreas releases insulin to bring it back down. In a body with normal insulin sensitivity, this process is smooth, efficient, and energizing. In a body developing insulin resistance, the process is sluggish and incomplete. Blood sugar spikes higher than it should, stays elevated longer, and when insulin finally clears it, it often overshoots, dropping glucose lower than ideal. This cycle of spike and crash is what produces that overwhelming tiredness that hits 30 to 90 minutes after eating. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that post-meal fatigue in adults over 60 was significantly more common in those with impaired fasting glucose, a direct marker of prediabetes, compared to those with normal glucose regulation. The researchers described it as glycemic fatigue, distinct from ordinary tiredness, and directly tied to blood sugar instability. Dr. Gerald Bernstein, director of the Diabetes Management Program at the Friedman Diabetes Institute in New York, has noted in clinical practice that post-meal energy crashes in older adults are one of the most consistently underreported and underinvestigated prediabetes symptoms, largely because patients and physicians alike normalize them as age-related. Frank, a 68-year-old retired firefighter from Pennsylvania, had been taking a nap every day after lunch for 3 years. His wife thought he was just slowing down with age, and so did he. When a routine metabolic panel revealed a fasting glucose of 112, squarely in the prediabetes range, his doctor connected the dots. Frank had attributed a textbook prediabetes symptom to aging for 3 full years. After dietary changes and a modest exercise routine, his post-meal energy stabilized within 8 weeks. But post-meal fatigue is just the beginning, because what prediabetes does to your sleep, that's what floored even the sleep specialists who studied it. That's point 2. Waking up multiple times at night is your kidneys asking for help. Here's what most people get completely wrong. Most seniors who wake up 2 or 3 times a night to use the bathroom assume it's a bladder issue, a prostate issue, or simply a feature of older age. In many cases, it is none of those things. It is the kidneys responding to elevated blood glucose, and it is one of the clearest early warning signs of prediabetes that almost nobody connects to blood sugar. Here's the mechanism. When blood glucose is elevated, even at the prediabetes level, not full diabetes, the kidneys attempt to compensate by filtering more glucose out of the blood into the urine. To do this, they pull significant quantities of water along with the glucose. More water in the urine means a fuller bladder more frequently. This is why frequent nighttime urination, what doctors call nocturia, is one of the earliest, most reliable signs that blood sugar is running higher than it should be. Research published in the Journal of Urology found that adults over 60 who experienced 2 or more nighttime bathroom visits had a significantly elevated likelihood of undiagnosed prediabetes or early type 2 diabetes, even when their daytime urination was normal. The nighttime pattern was the key diagnostic signal, because blood sugar tends to be most disruptively elevated in the hours following the last meal of the day. Dr. Rocco Papaglia, a urologist at the University Campus Biomedico in Rome, whose research on nocturia has been cited internationally, has specifically noted that nocturia in older adults without a clear urological cause should prompt screening for glucose dysregulation before any other urological workup. Helen, a 71-year-old retired librarian from Minnesota, had been prescribed a medication for overactive bladder after complaining of waking 3 times nightly. The medication helped modestly, but it wasn't until a new internist ordered a comprehensive metabolic panel that her fasting glucose of 108, pre-diabetic, was discovered. When her blood sugar improved through dietary changes, her nighttime trips to the bathroom dropped from 3 to 1, and her sleep transformed. She told her doctor, "I thought it was my age. It was my blood sugar the entire time." Wait until you hear number 3, because this one involves your vision, and it is something that most eye doctors are not screening for during a routine exam. Blurry vision that comes and goes is one of the first signs your blood sugar is unstable. This is the one that most seniors, and their optometrists, miss completely. If you've noticed that your vision seems sharp in the morning but blurry in the afternoon, or that reading feels harder after a large meal, or that your glasses prescription seems to change depending on the day, these are not random fluctuations. They are a measurable physical response to blood sugar instability occurring inside the lens of your eye. Here's the simple explanation. The lens of your eye contains small amounts of fluid. When blood glucose rises, it changes the osmotic balance, meaning the water content, of that fluid, causing the lens to swell slightly and temporarily change its shape. A changed lens shape means a changed focal point. Your vision blurs. When blood glucose drops back down, the lens returns to normal and vision clears. Most people attribute this to eye strain, screen time, dry eyes, or changing prescriptions, never to blood sugar. A study in the British Journal of Ophthalmology documented this phenomenon specifically in adults over 60 with undiagnosed prediabetes, finding that fluctuating visual acuity, particularly in the afternoon, was significantly more common in those with elevated glucose markers than in those with normal blood sugar. The researchers urged eye care professionals to include a simple blood glucose screen as part of routine eye exams for patients over 60. Dr. Jennifer Sun, a retinal specialist at the Joslin Diabetes Center at Harvard Medical School, has highlighted that glucose-related vision changes often precede any detectable retinal damage by years, making them a critical early warning window that is currently being largely missed. Richard, a 65-year-old retired engineer from Ohio, had been to his optometrist 3 times in 2 years with complaints of fluctuating vision. He'd received 2 new prescriptions, neither of which fully resolved the problem. It was only when his cardiologist ordered a fasting glucose test, as part of a cardiac workup, that prediabetes was identified. Within 3 months of addressing his blood sugar, his vision stabilized. His optometrist told him, "I wish I had ordered that test 2 years ago." Now here's what most people get completely wrong about point 4, and it involves a sensation most seniors over 60 have felt, but almost none have connected to their blood sugar. Tingling or numbness in your hands and feet. Is your nervous system sending a red alert? Wait until you hear this one, because this is the sign that floored me when I read the research on how early it can begin. Peripheral neuropathy, nerve damage caused by elevated blood sugar, is most people's image of late-stage diabetes. Numbness, tingling, burning sensations in the feet and hands. What the research now shows, and what most general practitioners have not yet incorporated into their pre-diabetes conversations, is that mild nerve damage can begin during the pre-diabetes stage, years before a diabetes diagnosis. Not full neuropathy, but early, subtle signs that the nervous system is under metabolic stress. The mechanism is this. Elevated blood sugar impairs the small blood vessels that supply oxygen and nutrients to peripheral nerves. When those nerves are chronically undernourished, they begin to misfire. The first symptoms are often intermittent, a tingling in the toes at night, a faint burning on the soles of the feet after a walk, a slight numbness in the fingertips in the morning. These symptoms frequently come and go, making them easy to dismiss as circulation issues or poor footwear. A study published in Diabetes Care found that among adults over 60 with confirmed prediabetes, nearly 30% showed measurable signs of peripheral nerve dysfunction on electrodiagnostic testing, despite having no diagnosis of full diabetes and no reported neuropathy symptoms significant enough to bring to a doctor. The damage was subclinical, accumulating quietly. Dr. Brian Callahan, a neurologist and neuropathy specialist at the University of Michigan, has specifically noted that prediabetes-associated nerve damage in older adults is substantially underdiagnosed because the early symptoms fall below the threshold that patients report and clinicians screen for. He recommends that any senior over 60 with unexplained tingling or intermittent numbness in the extremities receive a glucose tolerance test as a first step. Sandra, a 63-year-old former teacher from Colorado, had been mentioning tingling in her feet to her doctor for over a year. She was told it was likely poor circulation and advised to wear compression socks. It wasn't until she insisted on a comprehensive blood panel that her hemoglobin A1C, a 3-month average blood sugar marker, came back at 6.1%, solidly in the pre-diabetes range. The tingling was early neuropathy. She caught it early enough to fully stabilize with lifestyle changes. Her nerve symptoms have significantly reduced since she began the dietary protocol we'll discuss shortly. But the nervous system sign is not the last one, because point 5 involves something happening in your mouth every morning, and it is one of the most overlooked, most telling pre-diabetes signals of all. Persistent dry mouth and unusual thirst is your body's last polite warning. Here's what most people get completely wrong. Excessive thirst is listed in every basic diabetes overview as a classic symptom. Most seniors have heard of it. But here's what they don't know. In pre-diabetes, the thirst is rarely dramatic. It doesn't feel like desert-level dehydration. It feels like a persistent low-grade dryness that's never quite resolved by a normal amount of water. A feeling that your mouth is dry even after drinking. A preference for wetter foods. A constant, mild desire to drink something. The reason is the same kidney mechanism we discussed with nighttime urination. As the kidneys work to clear excess glucose from the blood, they draw significant water with it. The body responds to that fluid loss with a thirst signal. But in prediabetes, this signal is chronic and low-grade rather than acute and dramatic, which is why most seniors don't flag it as significant, and why it gets missed in clinical consultations. A study published in PLOS 1 found that adults over 65 with undiagnosed prediabetes reported significantly higher rates of persistent dry mouth and increased fluid intake, compared to age-matched controls with normal glucose, even though none of them identified this as a medical complaint worth raising with their doctor. The researchers described it as subclinical polydipsia, a quiet, below-the-radar version of the classic diabetes thirst symptom. Dr. Ann Peters, director of the USC Clinical Diabetes Programs, and a widely respected voice in diabetes prevention, has noted in her published guidelines that the thirst symptom in prediabetes is so mild that both patients and clinicians tend to attribute it to climate, medications, or normal aging, making it one of the most consistently missed early warning signs in older adults. George, a 70-year-old retired pharmacist from Florida, noticed he had been carrying a water bottle everywhere for 2 years. He assumed it was because of the heat and his blood pressure medication. He never mentioned it to his doctor because it didn't seem like a problem worth raising. When a routine wellness screening at his senior center included a fingerstick glucose test, his reading was 132, well into pre-diabetic territory. George was stunned. A symptom he had lived with for 2 years turned out to be his body's most consistent attempt to tell him something was wrong. And now, the last sign. This one involves something happening while you sleep, something you may have been told is normal, and something that is directly and powerfully connected to blood sugar dysregulation in seniors. Slow-healing cuts and bruises after 60 are not just thin skin, they're a metabolic signal. Most seniors over 60 have been told by their doctors that their skin is thinner and more fragile now, that cuts take longer to heal, that bruises appear more easily, that recovery just slows down with age. And while skin does change with age, there is a specific measurable way that elevated blood sugar accelerates and worsens this process, and it is going almost entirely undiscussed. Here's why. The body heals wounds through a complex process that requires healthy blood circulation, active immune cells, and efficient collagen production. Elevated blood sugar impairs all three simultaneously. It stiffens small blood vessels, reducing circulation to the wound site. It suppresses the activity of the white blood cells responsible for fighting infection and clearing damaged tissue. And it disrupts collagen synthesis, the structural protein that literally knits skin back together. The result is wounds that are slow to heal, prone to infection, and slow to close fully. A study published in Wound Repair and Regeneration found that adults over 60 with even mildly elevated blood glucose, in the pre-diabetic range, not full diabetes, showed measurably impaired wound healing responses compared to those with normal glucose levels. Healing time was longer, infection rates were higher, and scar tissue quality was poorer. The researchers noted that blood sugar should be screened in any older adult presenting with unexplained slow wound healing. Dr. David Armstrong, a professor of surgery at USC and one of the world's leading researchers on diabetic wound care, has described the skin as the body's most visible indicator of internal metabolic health, noting that wound healing speed in older adults is, in his experience, one of the most reliable indirect signals of blood sugar status. Martha, a 66-year-old grandmother from Tennessee, had always healed slowly, or at least, that's what she assumed. A minor kitchen cut on her finger took nearly 3 weeks to fully close and became mildly infected along the way. Her daughter, who worked as a nurse, suggested she ask her doctor for a diabetes screening. Her A1C came back at 5.9%, pre-diabetes. Martha told us, "I had no idea a paper cut could be a warning sign. I just thought I was getting older." Now, we've been through 6 warning signs. Let me show you what to do about all of them, starting today. Here's the most important thing I want you to hear right now. Prediabetes is not a life sentence. It is a window, and the research is unambiguous. Seniors who take action during the prediabetes stage can dramatically reduce, and in many cases fully reverse, their progression toward type 2 diabetes. It is not too late. Your body retains the ability to respond. Let's give it what it needs. Step 1. Ask your doctor for the right test, today. A standard fasting glucose test will tell you your blood sugar at a single moment, but ask specifically for a hemoglobin A1C test. This measures your average blood sugar over the past 3 months and gives a far more accurate picture. An A1C between 5.7% and 6.4% indicates pre-diabetes. Below 5.7% is normal. Above 6.5% is diabetes. If you haven't had this test in the past year, request it at your next appointment. This is the most important action item in this entire video. Step 2. Remove liquid sugars immediately. Fruit juice, sweetened teas, flavored coffees, sodas, and sports drinks spike blood sugar faster than almost any other food source. Replacing these with water, plain sparkling water, or unsweetened herbal teas is the single highest impact dietary change you can make for blood sugar stability. And you can do it tomorrow morning. Step 3. Walk for 15 minutes after your largest meal. This is backed by strong research. A study in diabetes care found that a 15-minute walk after eating reduced post-meal blood glucose spikes by up to 22% in adults over 60. Your muscles actively absorb glucose during movement, directly reducing the blood sugar peak that causes much of the damage we discussed today. You don't need a gym. You need your front door and 15 minutes. Step 4. Replace refined carbohydrates with protein and fiber at breakfast. Swapping a bowl of cereal or toast for eggs, plain Greek yogurt with berries, or oatmeal with nuts stabilizes your morning glucose and sets the hormonal tone for the entire rest of the day. Breakfast is the meal that most powerfully influences your blood sugar patterns through to bedtime. Step 5. Get screened at a senior wellness center if your doctor hasn't initiated this. Many community health centers, senior centers, and pharmacies offer free or low-cost A1C testing. You do not need to wait for an annual physical. The information is available now. Go get it. Let me leave you with the 3 things I most want you to carry from today. First, half of all seniors over 60 have prediabetes, and the signs, post-meal fatigue, nighttime urination, fluctuating vision, tingling in the extremities, persistent thirst, and slow wound healing, are already present in millions of people who believe they are simply aging normally. Second, the right test is the A1C, not just a fasting glucose. And if you haven't had it recently, getting one is the single most important health action you can take this month. Third, prediabetes is reversible. With the right dietary changes, walking habits, and awareness, your body has a genuine chance to reset. You have earned the right to know what is happening inside your body. You deserve to live your best years with full energy, clear thinking, and your independence intact. If this video helped you today, please subscribe. Every week we release content designed specifically to protect the health of seniors over 60. Hit subscribe. It costs nothing and could mean everything. Tell me in the comments, which of these 6 signs surprised you the most? Were you already experiencing one without knowing what it meant? And if you want to know which 5 foods doctors say actively support healthy blood sugar after 60, watch this next video. It could change everything. Take care of yourself. You deserve every healthy year ahead.